There's genres of music, whatever. You can't deny that, and this is this and this is that. But the fundamentals are all apply to all of it. You know what I mean? And blues, more than anything, is the center of all those things. So
Yes.
that's my little world where I started. So yeah, I want to get over here and I want to get over here and I love all this stuff. And for me, I love it and I'm thinking of it as like, how do I take these things and bring them back into my blues world, so that I can make my blues playing better. And that's something I've struggled with most of my life because I know you guys deal with it in the jazz world too. There's this wall of like, that's not real blues if you play that, or if you play too many notes, or you play this or this. And I'm the opposite of mine. Like the more can never be a negative.
Yeah.
To what you can do. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't make me a worse blues player that I know how to play through changes or that I know how to do this or that. I can't understand that sort of thing. But I know, like, talking to Bruce or jazz guys my whole life, it's like there's also the wall between the bebop guys and guys after the bebop. And it's like that stuff drives me crazy.
I,
Oh, yeah.
I agree, man.
Yeah,
And like, I love seeing you casually hang at Norm's and talk to Bruce and like play on a big box. I love that video of you playing the Stromberg or the Super 400.
Yeah.
And, talking about sound a little bit, I guess it's kind of an artistic question too. It's like, as a jazz guitarist, I kind of settle on a couple different kinds of amplifiers. I have an old Vibrolux that I absolutely love. And then I have a Henriksen, which is like a solid state jazz amp that also just really delivers in terms of jazz sounds. It seems like stylistically, the way that you play and the times I've heard you play, first of all, volume is a big part of your sound.
Yeah.
And for jazz, when you play bebop, of course, we're trying to blend and we're playing generally a lot softer, unless I'm playing with like an organ trio. Or like on Goldblum's gig, that's about the loudest I play with my L5. But do you like I was reading some articles about Stevie Ray Vaughan pairing guitars and amps. He talked about how he got distortion from a Fender and a real lot direct sound from a Plexi. Do you kind of have pairings of guitars and amps you pick, or do you just have like some favorite amplifiers, like a Dumble style amp you use all the time?
Yeah.
I'm always really curious talking to players like you about that, because that seems like a pretty different thing from what guys like myself are doing.
Sure. I mean, obviously, yeah, I have certain pairings that I know I like for certain things to give me certain flavors. For me, the biggest part of my formula is, yeah, volume is a part of it, but it's mostly about dynamic headroom and amount of information available to me. So volume is a key to having a lot of dynamics available to you. Because if you compress too much, you're not going to have dynamics. If you're too quiet, you don't have headroom, and you want to raise things up, you don't have enough dynamics because you have nowhere to go, as you build things up. So volume is a big part of it. I like a pretty balanced tone. Like everybody else, I like a fat, tight bottom end, but I don't like exaggerated. There's a trend of, we got to have the fattest guitar tone on the face of the earth. But if you have that fat of a tone, no one's going to hear every note that you play. So I am not afraid of the top end. I play a Telecaster, for God's sakes. But, top end is important. It's your friend and being heard. And that's what I really want. I want people to hear all the nuance that I'm trying to impart. So if I play light, if I lessen my pick attack, or I roll my volume or my tone, I change pickups, I play with my finger instead of my pick, I want people to hear all that difference. And the key to that is eliminating compression so that you can be the dynamics. You can make the decisions with these, as opposed to letting your gear make those decisions for you. So that's my biggest philosophy. No matter what I'm using, it kind of has to adhere to those guidelines for me.
Josh. It's good to meet you virtually, my man.
Yeah, likewise.
These guys have covered so much, and it's really just been a pleasure to kind of be a fly on the wall here and listen to you talk about your career and your artistry. For a guy that's taken the 175 into really the jazz realm, I'm still a huge fan of blues guitar. It means so much to me. And to hear you play the way you do, it really just evokes a lot of the emotions that I remember hearing as a kid, listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, like listening to the old Austin City Limits stuff. And I'm just wondering if you would just indulge jazz guitarist a little bit and talk about what Stevie Ray Vaughan meant to you and what some of those recordings really meant to you, whether it's Double Trouble or anything that connected with you.
Yeah, I mean, Stevie is so important to the foundational level of me, of what I do.
Yeah.
And it was it was the music, the playing. I learned, I can still literally pick up a guitar and regurgitate every recorded Stevie Ray Vaughan solo note for note, including many live ones, from bootlegs, this and that, because I spent so many hours on that stuff. But it was also really important for me for another reason, and that was because, as a kid, you get obsessed with these guys, so he was my guy and my hero. And I went so far down this rabbit hole that it actually enabled me to finally see from the outside, ooh, I'm going too far trying to play like somebody else. And it was an eye-opening thing of, I've got to start trying to find what makes me me. And that definitely was the beginning of me realizing that. I knew every solo by note for note, and I saw adults doing this too, doing the Stevie Ray thing, and it became clear to me, oh, I should move away from this. I can love it the same, but I should kind of start to find my own world in there. It was important in those ways. And he also, I already knew Albert King before Stevie, so it wasn't like he introduced me to Albert King, but he did introduce me to other things in the blues that maybe I wasn't up on, you know what I mean? Different songs and different things. And also he let me know, the same way Robben Ford lets me know it's okay to play this stuff in a blues setting and still sound like a real blues guitar player.
Yeah.
Stevie let me know it was okay to be aggressive and to play, more notes, and you're not going to lose that feeling that blues gives you, and yeah, again, just like we were talking about with bebop, it's like that's a problem in blues where people have a problem embracing, those movements. It's like, I feel what Stevie plays equally as much as I feel what Albert King plays or B.B. King plays, and that's all that matters. Yeah. Do I feel it or not? Or do you feel it or not?
Exactly,
and, so he let me know it was okay to do these other things.
It's such a pleasure to hear you talk about that. All that resonates with me, even with other guitar players too that I'm checking out. Just the idea that they give you permission to kind of play in certain ways that help you build your artistry. There was something else I just wanted to ask you about. I listened to a podcast you did with, I think it's Norm's Rare Guitars interview. And one thing you talked about was we touched on it a little bit, was about how crucial your development was to just playing gigs all the time, being out on the road all the time. And, we've talked about this in New West for so many years. And for people who are listening, especially younger people, if you want to get to a point where you can really play, perhaps even get to a point where you can play somewhat like Josh here, I think a big part of it is being out on the road and playing. And can you talk about the difference that you see in the people that were your contemporaries and had that experience, and then kind of what you're seeing now with some younger musicians that might not have that choice as much?
Yeah, it's really interesting because guys get so advanced so much quicker now because, again, they have so much information available to them. So a young guy will come over to hang out, and he'll be at this level that I couldn't have imagined being at his age. But then we'll play a vamp and jam, and it'll run out of things to say.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's because, that on-the-job thing, you can only learn certain things on the job. And it's not all music. It could be stamina. It could be learning how to read a room. When I'm playing it as a kid in front of a room of drunks or whatever, I may have to do something different to get their attention, or to even get any attention from something I'm playing. Or, if the room is loud, I may need to bring it down to get their attention and let them know there's something going on over here, or vice versa. You know what I mean? If they're not paying attention, I may need to step it up. You learn those things only on the job. I learned that my intonation on my guitar sucked once I really got out there and started playing with other people, or that I had no idea what it meant to change my tubes or make sure that all my gear was in order and be a real professional.
Yeah.
Again, you can only learn those things on the job, and yeah, those opportunities are not there anymore for everybody. And I know that's directly responsible for me being in the spot that I'm in. Is it's those gigs, those hours, that work. That's a big part of who I am.
Yeah, totally agree 100%. And I hope that resonates with a lot of people who might be listening, that in this world of video conferencing and social media and everything, that it's still really important to get out there and experience what it's like being on a gig, experience the challenges of different gigs and different places. So,
Oh yeah. Whenever anybody asks me, "Oh, what should I be doing more?" It's like, well, just take every fucking gig you get offered. Literally every gig. If it's $70 at Hotel Cafe backing up a singer, or whatever. Whatever gig, if it's cover band gig, weddings, casuals, every gig makes you better, no matter what.
yeah.
So it
100%.
was like there was a period when I would turn down no gigs, no sessions. I would do anything because it wasn't about the money. It was about the experience, because I knew I was going to take something from this and it was going to make me a better musician.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're an incredibly talented cat, and we were stoked that you were willing to spend some time with us on this podcast. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
And I love all your playing, and we got to hang.
It's one of my dreams to have a cat like you produce something for New West Guitar Group, because I feel like as a guitar player, you would have so much interesting stuff to tell us, because we record live in the studio. Like, we go on the road, play the arrangements for a lot of nights, and then we go record. And I know that's the lineage of like where cats like you are coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The producing thing, I'm really, really loving doing it. Now, yeah, the bulk of the stuff I've produced in the last few years have been guitar players. So it's people who reach out to me because of what I do and what I like and my knowledge. But I'm also now producing other stuff too, which has been, again, it's the same thing we've been talking about. I produced this pop record for a female last year, kind of Amy Winehouse type stuff. And it's like, now I'm in the middle of like a real poppy project. And it would be normally something I wouldn't want to do, but I want to do it because it's going to make me a better producer and a better musician, a better engineer. And man, I really, at the heart of me, the gigs and all that, is I have this inner like drive to be better tomorrow than I am today at whatever it is,
Yeah, man.
Killing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can understate like how important that is. If this is what, we all know guys who we grew up seeing play, that were our personal, like those local heroes, not the big stars, that are heroes. People were important to us. And we all have ones that we saw stagnate too and stop growing. Guys our age who we grew up with and we played with, and then they still play the same now at 40 that they played at 25, And it's really important to me not to let that happen. Like, I want to hear 6 months, every 6 months, if I listen back to a recording, I want to hear a lot of different shit, because I want to be growing at all times.
Where can our listeners hear you, keep in touch with you, see you?
Well, my website, joshsmithguitar.com, because Josh Smith, the basketball player, got joshsmith.com. And obviously Instagram and Facebook, Spotify, all that stuff. Who knows when I will be in a city near you again?
Yeah.
We'll see. I have a new record. Actually, I have two new records in the can, so I'm trying to figure out what's next.
Last nerdy gear question, because I can't resist. What kind of pick do you like to use?
I use these gravity picks, so they're acrylic, but the shape is like a Fender heavy, standard shape, 1.1 millimeter. That's what I grew up. I played my whole life, Fender heavy.
Yeah, man.
Picks, but I like the gravity. I had to make mine slightly pointier on the end, and I like it for rhythm playing. It gives me a little more, funkiness in my rhythm playing. Plus, it has a little grip on it, just a little bit of a texture, which helps because I hybrid pick so much, and I also switch between putting it in my palm and not. It helps me do that with that little grip on it.
Nice.
Thank you so much,
Josh,
man.
we appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah, great talking to you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Be
thanks,
well.
dude.
Thank you.
See-
All right, dudes.